Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you lovely folks joining me here nice and early over at Marvel Snap Zone. Welcome back for some more dedicated content over here on YouTube. Trying something a little bit different today by popular request. We've been making some great guides for new players over at Marvel Snap Zone, which you should check out if you haven't done so already. But we launched one today about infinity splits, how they work, all the variants, all the details, everything we know about them. And it turns out there really wasn't a lot of content about this available on the interwebs prior to right now. So I've decided to come and do a video version of this as well to kind of walk you through everything, showcase some of the stuff that we know and that we don't. And we will have some stuff popping up on screen periodically to kind of explain as we go. Alternatively, if you prefer to learn in article form, go check out that article I just talked about. I'm going to link it in the description of the below, of course. Spent a lot of time working on that, and it has some detailed photos and breakdowns for you if you're not familiar with any of the things I'm going to say or show to you in just a moment. So, infinity splits. I guess, do I have one ready to go that I can show you? Because I might very well not, unfortunately. I was hoping that Angela would just be good enough to start us off for today. Needs to be the other way around. Okay, so infinity splits are kind of a bit of a foreign concept to some people when it comes to getting involved in Marvel Snap. I unfortunately don't, but we'll bring up this Ultra Claw to demonstrate what I'm talking about. They offer you a really great way to get a very personal collection in Marvel Snap and kind of bling out the decks you play on a regular basis by giving you some artistic styles, some glitz, some glam, some different backgrounds and effects and stuff. But sadly, they're actually one of the more confusing aspects of Snap right now, because a lot of people just don't know how to get the variants they want. They've seen them on like the ladder against opponents' bots, and they know they can get art styles and variants, but they don't know how to get the sparks, the flashes, the black and white, the gold. And just how many different variants there are. There's just not a lot of information about that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and clear that up for you. I'm going to tell you all about what we know about them so far, all the styles that are out there currently, and essentially try and clear up some of that confusion about how they work in general. Of course, this is a topic that still has quite a lot of hidden information, and there are surprises in store for us down the line, courtesy of Second Dinner, so we are going to miss stuff, and this will eventually be out of date, but hopefully it will be able to help you with all the information you need prior to that being the case. So let's head right into it. First of all, infinity splits. Not variants. They are not different artworks. You cannot buy them from the store or open them in caches or acquire them in any other way. Those are very cool, and we do have a guide to those as well, but we're looking at card rarity here when it comes to infinity splits. Many people are aware that your cards have 7 base rarities. We have an Ultra Claw on screen, a Legendary Claw on screen here anyway. There are 7 base rarities from common all the way up to infinity. So common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, ultra, infinity. Every rarity upgrade costs different amounts. You'll see that, for example, this claw right now would cost me 400 credits and 40 boosters if I wanted to move it up to Ultra. In exchange for that, I would also gain myself 6 collection levels for doing so. But every level has a variety of different, rewards for doing so. Commons to uncommons, you're going to have your art break out of the frame, then the next level up will be a 3D effect, then an animation, then the logo gets shiny, then the card border animates, and then last but not least, we get to infinity, and the button looks a little bit different. It's this button here you're going to be looking at. It will have some rainbow pulses around it. Sadly, I haven't got one left to show you at this moment in time. And a lot of people aren't familiar necessarily with what that does, because you've obviously maxed out the rarity of your card. If you press it, it's going to split into a brand new version of a card. Now, I can show you one of these, thankfully, because I split one for the article earlier, which makes perfect sense. What will happen is you will get a new version of the card with a different aesthetic or a different background to it. That doesn't mean you get rid of the old one. The old infinite version stays in your collection. You can still use it if you prefer, but you will now get an extra copy in your collection with a different background and a different aesthetic. Now, it's important to remember that this split version will always be at common rarity when you first split it, but this means you get to upgrade it all over again in order to collect more and more different infinity splits, many of which are much harder to get or have, only available after you've split several times, making them into really interesting collector pieces that are kind of great to show off to your friends. Now, I am going to move back to the Angelas now to hopefully explain the rest, mostly because Angela is the card that I have the most splits of, so hopefully should make ourselves a little easier to showcase stuff as we go. So, Thanks to several players who have data mined Marble Snap, we understand that what effects are available currently is actually quite limited. We're expecting quite a few more in the future, and like a long-term collector-driven mentality to be able to have alternative art styles to your cards. But people are already chasing the rarest versions of cards on the client to show off to their opponents and to their friends. So based on what we currently understand, there are two types of effect in an Infinity Split: background effects and particle effects. Now, I'm going to pull up one that you will see both on for the sake of talking about them in this lovely black and white chibi version of Angela. So background effects are the background of the card, in this case the black and white effect. These are kind of like your traditional foiling on cards that you see in other card games. Background effects are always going to change the actual background of the card, either altering the artwork or removing it entirely for a more clean-like looking foil effect like you see here on this version. Currently, there are 4 different backgrounds available on Angela. You have access to hexagons, gold, Inkify, and rainbow. We're going to break down what each of those look like and a little bit more about them in just a moment. We've heard whispers that a few people think rainbow has some different sub-variants, but I haven't found anything to lend any credence to that thought process. The other effect, of course, is the particle effects. Now, these are the effects you see operating in the 3D space above or around your card that the game can offer because it's a digital card game. So you know, not on the face itself, but around it. There are also 4 of these currently, and are being referred to as Glimmer, Sparkle, Cosmic, and Kirby Crackle. Again, these don't seem to be official names. Some of it has been data mined up, but we see them referred to by a lot of different names in the community currently, just because there is no formal name. So we're going to break these down further in a second to clarify what is what, and hopefully that will break that down for you one way or the other. So, how do you tell what variants that your card has? Well, you'll see at the top here, underneath Chibi variant, we have 2 little hexagons underneath that title there. The one on the left is going to tell you the background effect. So, unsurprisingly, in this case, it is grey and white because this card is a inkified card that is black and white. The one on the right-hand side here is going to show you any particle effects that you may currently have on this card, of which this one does indeed have one, hence why this hexagon is here. It means at time of writing, of course, with 4 of each version available, there are currently 20 different splits of any card you can collect that are available, as you will have 4 backgrounds that have no particle effect, and then each of the 4 backgrounds with all of each of the 4 particle effects. So 20 total if you're the kind of person who's looking to collect them all. So let us break them down nice and easy one at a time. So going to start on rainbow background. So you're going to have to ignore the particle effects. Unfortunately, again, my collection is somewhat limited, so I can only have so many things to demonstrate this with. But rainbow as a background, one of the more simple ones, very common early on when you're getting splits. Nice clean background, silvery rainbow style colour. As mentioned above, sometimes like this one you can still see elements of the artwork in the background of it, even though it's been foiled out. Sometimes it's like almost completely blank and it's very hard to see anything whatsoever, depending on the card. And we do think that is on a card-to-card basis, so that is what your normal rainbow foiling looks like. The second most common split in the background is what we call hexagon foiling. Some people refer to it as triangle, which tends to remove the card's background art, so it's way harder to see anything on this. And it's been removed and replaced by a selection of hexagons, like foily hexagons you can see in the background here, that are quite sharp and have reflective edges to give it a more solidified rainbow finish. Very nice. Up next, we go to the 2 rarer backgrounds that can only be acquired after a handful of splits. The first one here, gold. Unsurprisingly, pretty easy to explain. The background is gold. It's quick, it's simple, it's really elegant, and that solid background really makes the character pop, in my opinion, which makes gold my personal favourite way of my personal favourite background to acquire on cards. So really big fan of gold myself. And then last but not least, Inkify, which looks like this. and of course has the appropriate symbol to go with it. You've been able to see at the top of all of these as we go. We're not sure right now whether Inkify or Gold is a rarer background, but both of them seem to only be available on your 4th split or later, which we'll go into a little bit more detail about in just a second. But these both kind of hold the same kind of prestige, and it gives like this 70s movie or like retro comic vibe. And this one's a really big fan favorite for a lot of people as well. They really like this Inkify effect, and they chase them down quite heavily. The background on these is lovely, and it really makes the character stand out too. So really, really big fan of this. In terms of particle effects, what are we looking for in terms of particle effects? Well, first of all, we're going to have glimmer here, which you can see on this hexagon, Angela. Glimmer gives you this like small sparkle that you see kind of popping out towards us on the card, flying away from the center in various directions, kind of has like shades of blue, pink, purple, white. Really kind of passive effect, very pretty, nice to look at when you zoom into it. And that is what the glimmer effect looks like on this card. Next up we have Cosmic. Cosmic is, in our opinion, the second most common of these additional effects, on particle effects I should say. As you can see, we've kind of got comets zooming and zipping around our card. It puts like swirling purple meteorites like around the card. And they move quite quick, which gives them a very space feel, in my opinion. Also has this like purple liney background. Didn't mean to close that there. Wrong one. Too many splits. This purple like dotty liney background in the background, which makes this quite a nice finish as well, in my opinion. We then have Sparkle. Sparkle, the only sparkle I can show you is on the black and white Angela here. Not quite. It's like kind of like Glimmer, but a little bit more big, a little bigger. Kind of reaches a little further out, has more shades of pink, purples, golds, reds, and blues, and kind of escalates from the sides out more than the center out, which means the artwork isn't quite covered by the effect quite as much, which is what the Sparkle one looks like. And then last but not least, I unfortunately have to show you one that I do not have. So the Kirby Crackle effect, I have an image that we've managed to find online for you here to demonstrate what this looks like. It's so rare that I don't have one, so I can't show you it in client. It's believed to be the rarest particle effect at the moment. It is called the Kirby Crackle with a C or a K, or sometimes Kirby Dots. It's named after the method of showing like a crackle of energy in US superhero comics, popularized by Jack Kirby in the 1960s. It gives this really cool red and purple energy field escaping from the card, which is super unique in comparison to any of the other effects you see on cards. And they are very, very hard to come by, and definitely in demand if you're the collector of this kind of stuff. So those are your 4 variations and all the ways they can be combined. So what do we know about the rarities and how common they are, and how likely are you to get the cards and the versions that you want? Well, it's complicated. A ton of information regarding these is still pretty secret, kept under wraps, which makes sense because, again, there's some surprises along the way, we understand that. But what we do know so far is the following. You will never ever split into an exact duplicate. You cannot get the same card twice. At least one element will change when you split a card to infinity, be it the particle effect or the background effect, or both. The first split, the first time you ever split a card, you're going to get a split that either has the rainbow or hexagon background, and that will be the only effect that is on the split, as they are the more common backgrounds, and your first split should only ever be a background effect and nothing else. You can start getting particle effects on your second split. In fact, you normally will. Most of the time your second split will contain a particle effect, but there are some occurrences of that not being the case, and you've just had the other background. If you had rainbow, you get hexagon. If you had hexagon, you get rainbow, with no particle effect on the split. So don't panic if your second one doesn't have one. However, your third split is guaranteed to have both. It will 100% have both a background and a particle effect. From what we understand currently, Gold and Inkify become available on your 4th split, so you can get them on split number 4, but they're not guaranteed. Some players on Reddit and elsewhere in the public space report that they've split cards up to 11 times before seeing the background they want, so definitely not guaranteed on 4 as far as we're aware. And the most important one, I think in my opinion, split levels, how many times you've split a card, is calculated by character. As you can kind of see with my array of Angelas here, I've split a couple of different artworks. not calculated by artwork, which means if you start splitting one, you switch to a variant you've bought or one that you got on the the season pass or something, you don't lose that progress. You will still be splitting towards the versions of that card that you want. Infinity splits are likely a super important aspect to players of Marvel Snap who see themselves as collectors, because having rarer, cooler, and fancier versions of cards to show off is just very cool, and getting to acquire those by regularly playing with them and no other way is a fantastic model. It rewards people for playing the game. It makes you feel important, makes you want to play constantly, and just offers you a way to have a collection that's your own, it's personalised, and has some very hard to find touches. Personally, I do want to find a little more information about how rare some of these are, because I think knowing that you hit like a 0.2% particle effect is a really big thrill, and I would like to see that information more readily available. But more importantly, what do you think? Let me know how you feel about the variant pack. Hopefully this video has helped you with some information you might not have known about how Infinity splits work. If you've got any cool variants you want to show me, you want to ask any questions, or have any concerns, feel free to reach out to us in the comment section below, in our community Discord server you can also find down below me as well, or over on Twitter at Marvel Snap Zone. Alternatively, if you want to talk Snap, you can drop me a line personally, also over on Twitter at HowlingMines. But until next time, I have been HowlingMines, you have been amazing, and I will hopefully see you out there in the multiverse for Marvel Snap.